Hello, welcome to another episode of the Veterans Corner. My name's Chuck Woodin. I'm joined by my co-host, Donna Dugnan. Donna,
Hi, everyone.
welcome back.
Thank you.
This is a part two of a two-part series with the Commissioner of the Department of Veterans Affairs here in Connecticut. The Commissioner has been here for countless times if you missed the first segment, he's been here countless times with Easter Seals, Rally Point, giving us updates on that, and that's something we're going to be doing again in the near future. But today, we covered a lot of stuff actually last week on the show, and this week we're going to pick up where we left off. There's a lot of great information here that's being put out by the Commissioner, and for those that don't know, Ron Welch, he's the Commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs, retired Brigadier General, United States Army. Thanks again for being here. We had a great show last week. On behalf of the viewers, us here at the Veterans Corner, we want to thank you very much for your service. With that being said, we have a lot of information. This actually could have been a three-parter with all the stuff that we have.
Not in one night.
No, well, not in one night, but a lot of great stuff, folks. Donna, take it.
So, in case you didn't watch our first episode from last week, the Commissioner was filling us in on activities going on at the Department of Veterans Affairs, some of the collaborations, and we kind of left off mid-thought with some of the other work groups that you participate with to network on behalf of the veterans in the state. So
thank you, Donna. Once again, Chuck, thank you for having me on. And I really hope that the show continues. I understand there's some issues with public access and the continuation of programs like this. And I can't emphasize enough how important it really is to help us get the word out to the veteran community and the general public about our programs and services that are out there.
Yeah.
So Donna, to answer your question, I'm involved in many different health and human service related committees and other committees, really interesting experiences. One in particular is led by Dr. Gifford out of the Governor's Office of Healthcare Strategy. And that has many other commissioners and organizations involved in it. And it's all about focusing on the social determinants and outreach and making sure that those that don't have easy access can get easier access to healthcare and employment and all the services that they may need. So public health is involved in that, and Department of Aging, Department of Children and Families, Department of Housing, Developmental Services, just about every social service organization you can think of. And I give them a lot of credit. They work very hard every day to try to make sure that people understand what the great benefits that we have in Connecticut and how to access them.
what are some of the infrastructure improvements that you have? I know you came in last June, so it's almost been a year. What are some of the improvements you've worked on and are planning on working on?
Oh, that's a good question, Donna. So the infrastructure, it's a beautiful campus. As I talked about in the last show, it's 92 acres, 39 buildings, mile and a half of tunnels. The ribbon cutting was back in 1940. So most of the infrastructure, a lot of it is 80 years old.
Yeah.
So with that aging infrastructure, there are a lot of issues. The team has done great work. The facilities management team on the campus to maintain what is there and attempt to improve it. Some of the things, we have a 5-year capitalization plan. Some things that we're trying to get resolved to move forward to provide everything that we need to support our veterans are things like a boiler replacement. Unfortunately, the boiler, when the initial funding was established, funding stream for it, and bonding, the price was about $3 million or so. Wow. Now it's up to $7 million. And we're currently renting a boiler temporarily to kind of sustain what we have, but we do need to replace that boiler. There's an entry control point, which we're trying to enhance that and have a new entry control point that's a little bit further into the campus so people can get safely off the road as they come in. Cameras, we're trying to improve our security, always trying to upgrade our security, and we have a big camera project in place right now. Expanding our housing, we did receive a grant from Department of Housing, help facilitate that. It was from one of the committees put that together and pushed some money through ARPA to us, ARPA funding. So there's a couple older buildings on the top of the campus that we're trying to increase our bed space up there, remodel those and get those up to a better status. They're not occupied right now. And then on John Levito Lane, we have some houses that were occupied by Veterans Rally Point transitional housing that we're going to be doing some roofing and some HVAC and getting those up to code.
Awesome.
Those are some of the primary projects.
Now, you were talking about up and back. Is that the area where the American Legion and VFW were up on the left-hand side, that corner?
Correct.
Yeah.
And directly behind those and to the right a little bit, behind the old hospital, there are 3 vacant buildings that were apartments at one point in time. So we need to go in and remediate, some of the asbestos that's there and clean those up and make sure they're up to code.
Awesome. How can we better reach out to the younger veterans, and how can we help you reach out to them?
Another great question. This is a challenge for everybody. For the VFWs, for the American Legions, the Disabled Vets of America, the federal VA, the nonprofits that are trying to help veterans that are in that younger category, that Global War on Terrorism group that's out there, that's from the 20s up to the 40s and a little beyond. They're trying to get their lives back together in some cases, or trying to find a job or get their education done, maybe start a family, and they're probably suffering in silence. And in some cases, they don't want to identify as a veteran, sadly. They're afraid that they're going to get labeled as that vet that has bad PTSD or depression or anxiety or, whatever the case may be. Shows like this are really important to let them know that they're not alone, that there's a lot of resources out there, that it's never too late to ask for help. And in terms of behavioral health and therapy, when you close that door with one of those healthcare professionals, behavioral health specialists, it's 100% confidential. Yeah. I continue to try to do shows like this. This is a very unique show. One of the only ones like it is like this. I've done a little bit of podcasting and things, but I think it's so essential to have this program. So shows like this and trying to get out and physically do events. Skydive for Vets last fall asked me to come out and make some remarks and participate in one of their jumps. I know that you had a Reverend Warrior on recently.
Yeah.
And, I love that group. It's a different approach, adding humor and trying to work through the behavioral health issues and being out there and walking and talking with those vets that participate in those events. Hike to Remember with the Marine Corps Detachment 40, Mike Monaco and crew out in Glastonbury trying to participate in that.
That's a group that I've heard of. They've been on our radar to be on the show. Yeah. Just haven't been here yet. That's another event. It's a different approach, but both of those events, they want the veteran population to participate, and unfortunately, they end up being around the same time frame. They're both 22 kilometers, and again, the 22 kilometers relates to the number of suicides that happen a day throughout the United States, and fortunately, we think the number's a little bit less. But I want to hit on that just for a minute, because I know in previous shows, Chuck and Donna, we've talked about that. A recent report from the federal VA was published about a month ago, and they reported since 9/11, the total number lost to death by suicide, unfortunately, is 120,000.
120,000. So we have to continue to work hard every single day to prevent and let those veterans know that are out there and service members that your life is really worth something. And if you need help, please seek help.
All the reports that we've had on this show is that 22 is just a number. The number has always been much higher. There was certain demographics, I guess you'd say, Texas, there's a few other areas that we weren't, or they weren't getting the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that number of 22 a day, we've stuck with that. But correct me if I'm wrong, it's much higher. Much higher, unfortunately.
And I've read a few reports because I got that report and I started to read it, and then you have to read it in increments because it's a lot of information and it's overwhelming if you stop to really think about it. But one of the reports was there's an increase in female veteran suicide, which partial because I'm a female, but I think female population, veterans as a whole, tend to not come and ask for help. We know this. But female veterans, especially if they're a mother or a caregiver, they're always putting themselves, their health, their mental well-being, back of the bus.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that. And whatever we can do to help spread the word that there are places they can come, there are numbers they can call. There's 988. You call it, you can text it. My experience with 988 is I called for a veteran that was coming into the center. When it was all done and they had triaged him and they had gotten him to a good place, they actually called back and asked how I was as the person who helped facilitate that. So I have had very positive interactions with 988.
We can't say enough on this show. We say it all the time. It's confidential.
Yeah.
100%.
No one is going to know. Reach out, grab the help that you need. It's available. There's so many resources out there to help you. You know, as veterans, we have a tendency to just suck it up until it's too late.
Yep.
And don't be ashamed. You're not the only one in the boat. You're human. It happens. Reach out, get that help. It's confidential. It's between you and the person on the other side of that line. Please do that. How are the other partners that you work with? I mean, there's a number of partners, right?
There really are. And, key to us, again, is the federal VA. Newington, West Haven, the vet centers do remarkable work that are around the states that focus on primarily providing counseling services to combat veterans and those that have had the unfortunate experience of military sexual trauma. That's what the vet centers primarily focus on. And the community-based outpatient clinics that are around the state of Connecticut are really incredibly great services are provided there. I'm on a distribution list daily and receive updates from the federal VA and also a member of our National Association of State Directors of Veterans Affairs. And we just met down in the DC, Arlington, Virginia area, our midwinter conference in February. And we had the Secretary of the Federal VA was one of the speakers, and many support agencies were there talking about the issues at the national level that affect all of us. Yeah. So we come together, and I forgot to mention this before about Stand Down, and Donna's done a tremendous job with her site out in Bristol. But our Veteran Stand Down will come up again on the 20th of September. It's a Friday at 9 o'clock, and we'll be at several remote locations in Rocky Hill this year. And all those partners that we work with will be at the Stand Down.
Yeah. That's been going on for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are we nearing on 20 years with that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 20 years with stand down. So we have a lot of people that watch that aren't necessarily veterans. How can just the community at large help?
So, I think it's important for us to all just reflect a little bit and think about the number. It's way less than 1% that currently serve and have served during the global war on terrorism. And the community support in Connecticut is tremendous, great state to live in, tremendous resources. We're asked this question a lot. The first thing is to make sure that the word is out there. On the last show, we talked about those municipal vet representatives. The state statute says each town and municipality is supposed to have one. It doesn't have to have been somebody that served in the military. Prerequisite number one, you have to care about people, you have to care about veterans, and you want to be able to have some knowledge in how to make those connections, how to help somebody find food if they need it, or housing, or clothing, or how to possibly find a job in the area, and very importantly, how to connect with our veteran service officers that are located in 5 district offices around Connecticut. So that's important. Help us make sure that your town has a municipal vet representative. If you see someone struggling, it's great to go up and thank somebody for their service, but if you know personally that somebody is struggling, whether they're in the military or not, please encourage them to get help. We talked about the 22 a day, and we talked about the 120,000. Think about this for just a second. We lost 58,000 in Vietnam, over 58,000. Global war on terrorism, over 7,000. But we're talking about 120,000 that have been lost to death by suicide. It's just so unacceptable. So if you see somebody, as Chuck and Donna said, encourage them to get help. And if you're out there and you're an employer and you have 2 candidates that are equally qualified, please give that veteran some consideration. Consider hiring them, because there are a lot of veterans that are unemployed right now.
Yeah, there is.
And when you're unemployed, you start to really wonder, what's your purpose, right? Yeah. You can't provide for your family, you can't provide for yourself. That spiral starts.
Everything that they've been through in the past.
Yep. I know when we when veterans come into the center, if they're unemployed and they're struggling to find work and they're doing everything right, I tell them to find some place to volunteer. One, it'll keep them busy, it'll get their foot in the door somewhere, and they're not sitting around starting that I can't get a job, I can't pay the bills, and start that spiral. So it's another great tool that they can use as well.
We definitely want to touch base on that one topic by the end of the show. We've probably got about 8 minutes left. Then we're going to show the viewers this. But what are some of the other events and updates that are coming up in the future? Sure.
I want to just go back to the fall. We had multiple events, but one real key event. We had 6 unclaimed remains. So we did a dignified ceremony in November. We had attendance by the governor and lieutenant governor and veteran service organizations, and a really large turnout in coordination with the funeral directors of Connecticut. And it was an incredible service, and we were honored to be able to do that. Multiple events in support of Veterans Day every year, and coming up right now on Memorial Day, we have right now committed to about 10 different events to be guest speakers and participate in parades and things like that. We had a really generous donor had donated a lot of money to enable us to build a pavilion on our campus. Wreaths Across America will be coming up this December, next December. We had a great event this year, and we were able to have about 13,000 wreaths out in both Colonel Gates Cemetery in Rocky Hill and over in Middletown. Very important for us was to host the Veterans Hall of Fame. We inducted 11 very distinguished veterans in January 2024. Applications are going up on our website now for this next year. We will start the selection process in September, And we'll have another ceremony in January 2025 at the Gold Star Auditorium on our campus. Korean and Vietnam recognition ceremonies are done throughout the state of Connecticut. Donna's participated in one in Bristol. We had to do a double session in Bristol. There were so many veterans there. It was incredible, that turnout there. And I've done about 35 of these ceremonies around the state. They usually last a couple hours. The Lieutenant Governor is in the lead. It's her event. And I'm honored to be able to make some remarks, stand up, do some pictures, and present them with a Vietnam service pin and a Korean certificate and a Vietnam recognition service certificate. Press conferences with the governor and lieutenant governor on social isolation. It's a big thing, right, for veterans and everybody.
Yeah.
So we've done some of that. And as we're into this legislative session now, a lot of the members of the General Assembly on both sides have visited our office, and we've talked about issues that affect veterans and how we can possibly support them.
One thing that we want to make sure that we put out there is there's a pamphlet here that the commissioners put out from the Department of Veterans Affairs. This could be seen. It's 4 beautiful pages. I mean, there's a lot of very informative stuff here, not only for our veterans, but that whole veteran community, family, friends, and the public. This could be reached. You can see this, and we didn't put this out at the first show, but ct.gov/DVA, and scroll through the website, and you will definitely see this pamphlet there with some great information on here. So please do that. Yes, I was thinking about something else, but anyways.
I don't know what you were thinking about. So I don't know what you were thinking
Yeah,
about.
we want to touch on one topic that's very important, and the commissioner. We got about 2 minutes, so progress since the global war on terror started.
So a great question, Chuck. And I want to kind of wrap some of my comments up by we're not hearing about some of the positive things that happened on the ground in places like Afghanistan and Iraq and other places contested around the world. And I think it's very important for our veterans that served during a global war on terrorism and their families to know that while we were on the ground during those 20 years, yes, things didn't end the way we anticipated, but I want to go through a quick list of things that I saw through my eyes, having spent nearly 40 years in the military in both peace and war. The threat was being captured and eliminated. Roads were being cleared and areas were being cleared of mines and improvised explosive devices. Roads were being paved. Medical support was being provided to populations that had never received medical care in their life. Their life expectancy in Afghanistan was improved. I read one report by possibly up to 10 years. Absolutely incredible. Girls and women were learning about their rights. They were becoming educated. We built hundreds of schools. Wells were dug, producing clean water. When I got to Afghanistan in 2005 to 6, 1 out of every 5 children were dying before they were 5 years old because of cholera, which is a waterborne illness. Training and teaching the Afghans to grow other crops besides poppy. An economy was being established. There's power being generated in many parts by, the hydro dams and things. And so a lot of great progress. Those that served there, Afghanistan, Iraq, other places, like I said before, around the world, or those that supported in any conflict or in support of or just wore the uniform for our great nation. We'll never be able to thank you enough. You need to hold your head high because you did great work. You did what you were asked to do.
Okay. That's all the time we have.
That's it. Thank you very much.
I'm glad we were able to get that in. Time was a little bit off. We should have had more time with that, but the next time. Yeah. Real fast, Commissioner mentioned something about funding for public access. it's important that we get the word out that we need to contact our state legislators. Places like this are in jeopardy of closing down. Programs like this are in jeopardy of closing down, not just here at Nutmeg, but statewide. So it's very important. With that being said, Commissioner, thank you. It's an honor
Thank you
to
very
have
much,
you
Doug.
back.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We want to
Always a
thank the
pleasure.
viewers for watching. See you next time in the Veterans Corner. Good night.
The water's warm at Jaws Pond, and we're stocked full of treasures. Big or small, we buy it all. We buy and sell fast rides, power tools, vintage guitars, and so much more. Walk the plank in style with our fine jewelry, diamonds, and watches. Plus, we have a huge selection of the latest video games, including the new PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Jaws Pond, conveniently located on Meriden Waterbury Turnpike in Southington and West Main Street in New Britain.
Follow us on Instagram at nutmeg.tv.